American Supply Association. You are signed up for the ASA CEO Summer Webinar Series, and the third session, Increase Sales, Reduce Costs by Adding Lines to Your Orders with Smart Product Recommendations, with presenter Rich Schmitt, President of Schmitt Consulting Group. This webinar is a part of the Executive Leadership Program, and thanks to the ASA leadership, the Summer CEO Webinar Series is now offered free to our members as another valuable educational offering to ASA members. If you missed the previous sessions, you can access a recorded version on demand by going to your My ASA page. If you have any problem logging in, let us know. We'll be glad to assist you getting to that location. Mark your calendars for the next summer webinar session entitled How Are We Driving Change? With presenter Dirk Beveridge, founder of Unleashed WD and president of Fourth Generation Systems. That session will be on August 14th. I'd like to call attention to ASA supplier partners. It's through the support of our supplier partners that you see up on the screen now that we've been able to offer programs such as this and other valuable benefits because of the support from these folks. So we appreciate their efforts. As a reminder, don't forget to register for Network ASA, September 9th through the 11th in Las Vegas. We've got a really robust registration going on right now and anticipate to exceed some records with this year's convention. We have another expanded and exciting program planned. We've doubled the educational program from last year's highly successful event in Washington. And again, we have some great speakers. One is a former Navy SEAL Team 6 member, Dan O'Neill, will keynote the plumbing breakfast. Dan O'Neill, if those of you saw the movie Captain Phillips, that was one of the missions he was involved in. Keynoting the Wellben IPD breakfast is Regis Philbin, and a surprise guest to be announced at the breakfast. Wrapping things up at the Future Trends Luncheon is legendary football coach Jimmy Johnson. So we hope your firm will be there. Make sure you get your registrations in before the fees go up, I think in about 3-4 weeks. During this session, your mic is muted. However, you'll be able to send us questions for Rich during his presentation. You'll see on the right-hand side of your screen there's a location for you to type in your questions. We can see those, and we'll pass those along to Rich as you type them in. Okay, so let's get started with today's session. The idea of utilizing transactional data to recommend related products to customers based on their buying habits has been around since 1998. However, many wholesalers have been slow to take advantage of this truly beneficial, lucrative, and surprisingly simple selling technique. Most ERP systems already store accurate information about customers' buying habits and trends. The trick is examining the transactional data, generating smart product recommendations, making it easy to add more lines to orders and reduce operating costs. Rich will discuss the benefits of associated product recommendations, how to extract and make sense of the transactional data in your ERP system, and why using this technique will help make your business more money. Thank you for providing this important session, Rich. We look forward to your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Schmitt. Rich, you there?
Yes, Mike. Sorry, hit the wrong button. First of all, thanks, Mike, and thanks to ASA for putting on this series and the opportunity to talk about something that has been one of my hot buttons over the years in terms of recommendations to wholesalers. Before we really get into this, I want to just spend a couple minutes talking about where we come from and what we do. This is the 1951-1952 Honeywell catalog, and if we look at the back cover, this is their national catalog. That's my grandfather, father, and uncle. And so our family has been in and around this industry for more than 100 years, and we're here because we like it. Good folks, a lot of good opportunities in this industry. We have two companies. One's our consulting group, which is really focused on hard goods distribution and manufacturing. We work a lot with family-owned or closely held companies, do a lot of work in the area of pricing, sometimes turnarounds for companies that are in trouble and need some quick help, do a lot of work in people and marketing. As some of you may know, I also am the lead columnist for the wholesaler. My column, Smart Management, has been in the wholesaler for more than 15 years, and enjoy that relationship. So do a lot of things. Very focused on practical kinds of recommendations instead of theoretical recommendations. We also have a marketing services company which really grew out of our consulting business, where we help wholesalers to market to baby boomers like me with catalogs and paper kinds of print form catalogs. And at the other end of the spectrum, we also have a very robust electronic commerce offering where we help prepare content, provide a web storefront engine with search capability and connectivity to your main computer system, mobile storefront, handheld applications to help with your customer service, truck management, price management tools, and we also do website designs. So that's the quick run through about us and where we come from. I always like to start with the strategic basis for all kinds of discussions like this. And the strategy we call the simple strategies because it's simple to say, not necessarily simple to do. That's the strategy that we find in place by many of the dominant wholesalers in many markets is this: to become the primary supplier to a group of selected customers. And what do we mean by that? Well, primary supplier is that wholesaler who gets the first call. Guy needs something to do a job, he picks up the phone, who's he call? He calls his primary supplier. If that contractor's out in his truck, wants to get material for a job, often his primary supplier is the first stop. When they need information, it's the first wholesaler that they call. When they need go to a website for information, that's the primary supplier. First web store. If they're on the job site and want to order something because they're short on a project, they often call they also often connect into their primary supplier's mobile web store. If it's a bid or quote situation, primary supplier often gets last look. So this is a relationship that you build with your customers that earns you the right to get that, you earn that right with them. We find that there are 4 things that you have to do to earn that. First and foremost is reliable, reliable, reliable. In retail, people say it's location, location, location. I think in wholesaling, it's reliable, reliable, reliable. Because if you can't be reliable, you can't be my primary supplier. And in addition, you need good locations and a good ability to get the product to them as promised. That means on time. That means high level of accuracy. It means that you support them when they have questions and that you respond heroically when there are problems. And that's part of earning that relationship. Second, you have to have the right products. If you don't have the products that I need and use every day, I'm going to be looking for a supplier who has those products that I need and use every day. And that means you have the brands that they need and use, and you have the quality level. Some people buy economy products, some people buy high-end products. If you don't stock the products they need, they're going to be looking for a one-stop supplier who has the brands, the quality, and the quantity they need. Sometimes if they buy by the pallet or by the skid, you need to have that quantity if you're going to be their primary supplier. You have to be very dependable in your inventories, meaning that if you're a plumbing wholesaler and you stock out of half-inch 90s, copper 90s, your customers are not going to forgive you for that. They look around and oftentimes will say, yeah, this would be a great place to put up a supply house. Wish somebody'd do that, because they don't think that they should have to call ahead to find out whether you are in stock of those bread and butter items that they use every day. We call those NBU items, and you need to develop your inventory management practices so that you have extra safety stock and do all sorts of heroic things to never be out of stock on those 200 to 300 items that are considered critical and bread and butter items by your target customers. And you also have to make sure that your customers know that you have the products. Oftentimes, they will not be buying a product from you because they don't know that you have it. And so there are marketing activities that have to be associated with making you the primary supplier for the products with the customers. You have to have a good relationship. The customers must like you. People generally buy from people that they like. That's just the way we're kind of wired in life. And of course they'll buy from you if they don't like you, but they tend not to make you their primary supplier. So you have to build relationship, and part of that is promoting yourself. I think our industry tends to be extremely modest, and by that I mean that we don't go out and remind our customers of all the great things that we do for them, and it's important to do that in terms of continuing the relationship. And then finally, you have to have fair pricing. Your customers don't want to buy from you if they think you are gouging them. And it doesn't mean your price has to always be the lowest, but it always has to be perceived as fair and competitive by your customers. And part of that, again, is promoting yourself and remembering that their perception of your pricing is more important sometimes than the reality. We find wholesalers all the time who actually have very, very low and competitive pricing, yet their customers perceive them as a high-priced wholesaler, and that drives the customers' activities much more than the fact that they are really a low-price provider. So that's the primary supplier discussion. You have to be reliable, good relations, good locations and delivery, right products, good relationship, fair pricing. And that earns you the privilege of being their primary supplier. That gets you into the game. And so you've earned that first call, the first stop, or first click. And what this means is that it's often your business to mess up. I mean, if you have the product, you have a fair price, oftentimes the secondary wholesaler that they buy from doesn't even get into the game. And this allows you to be more dominant in your operations than any other method we know, I guess, other than if you have compromising photographs of someone that you can use to cause them to buy from you. But in the normal game of wholesaling, if they call you and you can take care of them, a lot more business is just going to come your way. Now, some other miscellaneous considerations that we see driving wholesalers in today's markets. Many wholesalers, unfortunately, average around 3 to 4 lines per order, and this is very inefficient. If you track your transactional costs, you know that your cost per line on an order is fairly high, and when you're averaging 3 to 4 lines, it just means that you have very high costs associated with each order. And ideally, you want to sell the whole project. Sometimes the contractor will call you and they'll say, hey, I need a toilet for the job, and they order the toilet and then don't order all of the other pieces that are required to install that toilet. And sometimes that may go on a second order, not ideal, but even worse, sometimes those supplies that are required for the installation go to a competitor, and that's the worst case. And the other part of this is that other material on the project is often more profitable than the base item that they order. So, in terms of your profit percentages, it's often best to sell the add-ons at a higher profit. Another factor is that a lot of contractors just don't remember all the products they need for a job, and by providing recommendations and helping them to remember all the products, you increase the odds that you will be there to sell it to the customer. Another factor that has to do with product recommendations is that our product training in this industry is difficult, time-consuming, and thus expensive. Most wholesalers are stocking somewhere between 10 and 20,000 active items in their inventory, and getting a new person into your business and trained on how to sell and recommend those kinds of products is extremely time-consuming. In the old days, people used to work for 10 years to learn our business, and then may stay in the industry for another 20 years where they're productive and that training pays off. With today's Generation Y folks who are not interested in 20 and 30-year relationships with their employers, the key is to get them trained quickly and inexpensively so that they can help the customers with product recommendations and taking orders. Providing high-quality recommendations may expand your order. Conversely, providing low-quality and stupid recommendations may actually reduce the customer's willingness to accept your recommendations. I was on a major wholesaler's website looking for some wire earlier this year for a project that I was doing, and I found the wire. It was 12-2 with ground. Saw that they had it in stock, and looked down to see that the recommended product to go with that was a case of toilet paper. And as someone suggested, that if you are doing your wiring project without turning off the breaker, in fact wiring it live, you may need that toilet paper, but I don't think that was how the recommendation was derived. So, that was a stupid recommendation, and I'm not a trade electrician, but if I had been, that would have certainly caused me not to value the recommendations coming out of that web store. And the other thing that we know is that many of the popular ERP systems out there, even some of the older legacy ERP systems, have the ability to show associated items, so that if someone looks up the toilet, there is a facility in your system to show that, hey, here's the wax gasket, here's the stop, the riser, the Johnny bolts that go with that, and provide those as a quick and easy recommendation to your counter or inside sales folks as they are taking the order and building the order with the toilet on it. Most wholesalers that we work with don't use that capability for a lot of reasons. Probably the most influential reason is that they don't have the time to build out the recommendations. When you're stocking 10,000 to 20,000 items, it just takes a lot of man time and effort to build out recommendations. So what they end up with oftentimes in their ERP system are inaccurate ones or out of date recommendations, and also people aren't trained in the sales techniques of effectively using those recommendations, and so in most systems that I have encountered, those auto recommendations are just turned off, and nobody uses the feature. And the other thing is that most web store software products have some capability of showing associated items somewhere in the ordering process. So these are some of the things that are going on. Product recommendations. We think that there are two logical places that you can use associated products to enhance the order and also to help the customer to remember to buy all the material from you. Outside, inside, and counter sales, typically there isn't the opportunity to recommend tens of items to a customer. Oftentimes, what the counter person gets to do is to say, hey, do you need the stop for that toilet, or do you need the gasket for that toilet, if they notice that the customer has not ordered it yet. And so the idea is to make it easy for them to order it, and then to rank the recommendations so that you have the highest probability recommendations at the top instead of the low and far out recommendations that also might be in the system. The counter person's credibility is at stake. If they were to recommend toilet paper to the electrician, they're going to get blown out of the saddle, and the electrician is not going to value any further recommendations from that counter person. If the recommendations are correct and appropriate, then oftentimes the customer will appreciate the recommendations and in some instances may buy from you. You know, and this doesn't work for every customer. Some customers resent it; they consider it meddling or some sort of an insult in that you're saying that they're stupid or forgot something. However, done with the proper sales training, I believe that the recommendations will be valued by customers and appreciated. On the web store, you have the opportunity to show more recommended products, but it's really important to do that in a ranked way so that you have your highest probability recommendations at the top for customers. And just as important in my mind is that it is convenient and easy for the customer to buy from you if they do want to use the recommendation that you've created. Oftentimes web stores make it very difficult. You have to link to some other page or go someplace to a different part of the web store to order the recommended items, and it just makes it, it kind of takes it out of their normal workflow of creating an order to you on your web store. So make it very, very convenient to buy the recommended items. So there are three ways typically to develop recommendations for your customers. One is to call in your experts. Get some of your team who really knows the product, have them sit down and start building out recommendations in your system. It's very time consuming, it's very expensive, and if you're running lean like most wholesalers are these days, you may not have the extra people time available to actually build out the recommendations. But when they do get built out, they tend to be pretty high quality and very specific to the items. The cons in this approach are that sometimes as humans we forget stuff. We were working with a wholesaler a while ago, and they had one of their experts build out all of the related items for someone who was ordering PEX tubing, and he just forgot the crimp rings. Well, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer because you know that someone who's installing PEX is going to use a lot of crimp rings, but being human, he just forgot the crimp rings. Typically, the human activity is a one-time project, meaning that people who do it build out a small number of items, and that's the last point. It's typically not the entire inventory. They build out a small number of items, and they say, I will never do that again. I will never build out the items again because it's so time-consuming and so difficult. And oftentimes then that means that whatever got entered just sits there and becomes more and more outdated as time goes on. It just doesn't get updated. And and I think that that's at the heart of why some wholesalers end up turning off that feature in their system, because over time people just look at the content and the associated items and say, it doesn't include any of our new products. It shows me a bunch of products that I know are obsolete. Just turn it off because most of the recommendations are I don't trust the recommendations, and thus I won't use them in front of a customer or to make recommendations to a customer. So that's the typical thing that people do. The second approach that some people do is they use their web store transactions to create recommendations in their web store. And many web store products have the ability to do that. The problem is that oftentimes it just then includes a small number of their total transactions, because even today, as we're getting really on board with electronic commerce in our industry, still a very small number of the total transactions are being sent through web stores. So that small sample means there's reduced accuracy, and then oftentimes people don't take those recommendations from the store and then in any way implement them back in their ERP system so that those recommendations don't get deployed at the counter or for your inside salespeople. So it's got very limited impact, and because of their limited accuracy, you are vulnerable to toilet paper kinds of recommendations. And I guess that's my judgment as to what happened when I was looking for the wire, is that it was just one of those happenstances where there was a very low kind of association between wire and toilet paper, but there was enough of an association that it got shown on the web store. The final way is to, and this is the one that we believe is the most effective and most viable today, is to mine all of your transactional data out of your main computer system, so it will include all outside, inside, and web store transactions to give you the highest quality statistics. In many cases, being able to run more data through the analysis process allows the statistical routines to provide higher quality recommendations. The best process, we believe, is to do a two-way association where you say, okay, when I ordered this toilet, I can see that a seat shows up on almost all of my toilet orders. But then you want to do the reverse association to say, okay, when people order toilet seats, how often does this toilet show up with the toilet? And by being able to do the statistical linking in both directions, we can eliminate commodity products that would show up on many of your orders. You're going to find that that things like maybe solder or some commodity fittings are going to show up in a great number of your total orders, and statistically, if you do a one-way link, they're going to show up as the associated items on just about everything that you sell. By doing a two-way two-way statistical link, you are able to eliminate some of those commodity products that are just prevalent to almost all orders. Doing this electronically is really pretty quick and easy. After the system is set up and some of the, I would call your company's preferences are established, the recommendation process can be rerun whenever you want it to be run, so that if you add new product lines or obsolete product lines, you can rerun the associations to make sure that they take into consideration the changes in your product offering. Best quality accuracy, well, okay, and I still believe that you want to use your product experts when you can. I think they provide even better recommendations than the statistical analysis. However, again, the problem is the time required, and they're not going to be able to get through all of your 10,000 items and provide good associations. So being able to do it comprehensively is a really good thing for your company. Doing proper statistical associations also will, in some instances, not have recommended or associated products because there was not a strong enough statistical association to develop a recommendation. And in those cases, you just don't recommend anything. So that is, I'm sure you can tell, is the process that we recommend. Now, at this point, I'm sorry to talk about a product that we offer. It's kind of a commercial, I guess, but I want to talk about what we're doing and offering, because I think it'll give you a sense of where we think you ought to go if you're going to develop it internally or work with somebody else. We partnered with an expert who has a lot of experience in doing this in other industries. There isn't a lot of this going on in our industry. some of it is available, but as far as I know, very, very few wholesalers are making use of it. What we wanted to do is find someone who had success in another industry and had built out his statistical routines, and then bring him in and allow him to apply those algorithms to our industry. The approach is that it statistically mines transactional data and develops the statistical probability that that the customer will need or buy the associated items when they are viewing a base product. Because we do the two-way association that I talked about earlier, and because we rank the products, rank the recommendations, and in effect filter out low probability recommendations, you end up with a really nice list of items that your inside sales team can recommend at your counter, or what would probably be a longer list that your web store could show as recommended items when somebody is viewing a base item. The recommendations, the simplest way to do it is to do what I would call a global recommendation, where you're saying we're going to pull together all types of customers into our recommendation and do a consolidated view. It's probably the simplest to implement and requires the very least setup and the very least deployment work on your end to get up and going, and that's one of the reasons that I think it's a good thing to consider, just going with a global recommendation as a starting point. But the approach that we use can also create recommendations by customer types that you've created in your ERP system. So if you say, hey, we have 10 types of customers that we generally sell to, if we have a new residential new construction plumber, these are the recommendations that would apply to that plumber versus if we have someone coded as a mechanical or as a service plumber. And the way that the algorithms work is that they can build out the global rankings, but for those customers that are uncategorized. But if you have some customer that you have categorized as to the type of work that they do, you can get even more specific in your recommendations. And that just, again, improves the quality of recommendations that you can offer to your customers. The fact that we're doing this electronically makes it a very labor-unintensive process, I guess is the way I would describe it. The fact that you can run it periodically at will and to reflect the changes in your product offering means that it is always accurate as of the time that it was run. And we have built in the ability to cooperate with recommendations done by your product experts. What we can do is we can tag certain recommendations as being approved by one of your experts, so that as the electronic process goes through and re-ranks and reworks the recommendations, it will give the highest ranking and highest value to those recommendations that were made by one of your product experts. Because, again, we think that product experts do the best job if you have the time and energy to do that. Nothing is easy, I guess, in the world, but this really would be considered quick and easy compared to a lot of things we do in our industry. This is one of those things where we're doing an introductory promotion. So if you're interested, please just get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to talk to you about how it works and what you can do with it. The beauty is that it really is pretty ERP independent. We work with many of the major ERP systems out there, and and have the ability, as long as we can pull in things like the customer file and the transactional file, we ought to be able to create the mappings for your ERP system if we haven't already done that. And now, to be fair, and we're not the only game in town. There are other companies that do these kinds of things, but ours is really just very straightforward and easy to get going with it, and not very expensive. I wanted to show you just one screen, and this is from our web store product, so that when a customer looks up this toilet, these are the associations that get thrown up to the customer, and you'll notice that they're provided in an order entry screen for the customer. We wanted the customer to be able to order the base toilet thereafter, and then go down and look at some of the other, since you'll notice that the seat is sold separately, a couple of seats that are presented, also a ringless wax gasket, and one with a heavy-duty version of it is also shown. Very simple for the customer just to go down and enter the quantity in that they want for the add-on items, and click the add button once, and it'll add the toilet, the wax gasket, and the seat to their order in one button click. Again, all we're trying to do is to increase the odds that the customer will buy these additional, possibly higher profit items from you when they're ordering the base item. And so that's by making it easy for them and efficient for them to do that, we think that it just helps you to improve the process. So one of the things, just a quote from the guy who we partnered with, it's that this is some specialized tweaks on classical data mining, and the main thing that we get is that we can do high accuracy recommendations that are really tuned into the type of customer that you're working with, or that you're doing the transaction with. The implementation process is very straightforward, and I think this is similar to many of the data mining tools that do this. We use a year or two of transactional data. We get your customer classifications. We pull in your product master. We can then tune it manually. The data gets analyzed, and the associations are provided back to you in a flash file that you can then import into your ERP system. They are provided both with the statistical correlation of the products, and we've created a ranking statistic that says, okay, if you can only recommend one item, this first item has the highest probability that you're going to be able to sell it to the customer. So if you only have the ability to tell him one thing, tell him this, because your odds are the highest that you'll sell this item to him. And then the idea is that we normally sell it as a one-time or two-time or three-time kind of offering. Some of our customers sign up to do 3 different processes, either 6 months apart or however many months apart they want, and then you get a lower price for that. Or if you just want to do a one-time thing, it's a set price, and then you can always do another one-time re-rank at your own convenience. But we don't lock you into a multi-year contract unless you want to take the price break that's available for that multi-year contract. And I think that's it. That's a quick run-through of how it all works and what you can do. Be happy to answer any questions you might have about it. But I guess the base recommendation is, and those of you who read my column will know that I'm a big proponent of getting this data into your ERP system, into your web store, whether you use the experts approach or whether you mine your web store data or whether you use the approach that we did where we data mine your entire transactional, all your transactional data. But get it in there and train your team to use them. Don't allow them to not make these recommendations because it'll increase the number of items that go onto your order. And as I said, oftentimes if you're doing proper price management, some of these items will be the higher margin items that can help to improve your profitability. So, questions?
Okay, Rich, at this time we do have a handful of questions. The first one is using an existing ERP system. You mentioned the ability to sell the whole project based off of one or two recommended items. What steps can a distributor make to be proactive in the process of selling the whole project?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, and it really is one of the things that's very difficult in our industry. I marvel that when I order a pizza, that they've trained a disinterested 16-year-old to try to sell me hot wings, crazy bread, and a 2-liter bottle of soda. And obviously, with a pizza company, the number of items is a lot smaller, but our industry just does a very, very poor job of training our teams to think in terms of expanding the order. Sometimes it's a time-critical issue in that they're very rushed and they're just trying to get the customer's order taken care of and get them on their way and get to the next customer. But oftentimes that's thinking the wrong way, that it's very good to get the customer on his way quickly, but to get him on his way or her on her way with all the products they need to do the project. Now, ideally, over time, you're going to be training your people in the associations and hiring smart enough people that they are able to do proper associations and to know what goes into a toilet install or a sump pump install or various types of installs. I think that that on the common kinds of things that you sell, you ought to have crib sheets or training that so that your team can do that off of the top of their mind. However, again, with your ERP system, if you can build that into the system with high-quality recommendations and provide it in a way that allows your customer support people, your inside sales or your counter sales people, to add those items onto an order and then train them to say, hey, I see you're installing the toilet. Do you want the seat that goes with that? Do you need a stop? Do you need a wax gasket? And just very quickly run through that in 15 seconds and allow the customer the opportunity to add items to the order. As I said, if it's a counter kind of situation, you're not going to be able to make 10 recommendations for every item they put on the order. It'll really aggravate the customer if you do that. But a couple of quick recommendations really do make sense. And on the web store, as I said, convenience, make it easy. Make it easy for them to just add it to the order without much thought or much additional effort.
Okay, Rich, next question is, what tools do you use to make sure your employees are asking for additional items?
That's a tough one. In the best-run companies, they actually they are able to monitor phone conversations of their inside salespeople and their counter folks, and So there might be someone who is occasionally monitoring the calls that people do, as they say, for training purposes, and coaching the inside team and the counter team to remember to add these items on. I think it doesn't work, though, unless you have provided the base training in what items to recommend, how to say it. Oftentimes, people that you hire for the counter or inside sales can't make up the things that you want them to say. So you have to not only teach them the items that they need to recommend, but you also need to teach them how to say it to a customer. You don't want to say, aren't you forgetting the toilet seat for that toilet? That's kind of an offensive way of saying you're kind of dumb to the contractor or customer, instead of saying, hey, will you be needing a seat for that? That's a much less offensive way of asking for the additional items on the order. I also think that it's important that whoever manages the counter or manages inside sales spend time listening to the conversations that your team has with customers, and then just uses their observations to do quick kinds of coaching with the counter team. Oftentimes, they really do want to do a good job. They really do want to increase the number of items on an order. They just don't have the wherewithal to figure out how to do it on their own. And by coaching them in doing it, you may get some buy-in. We've also seen companies over the years who have offered some sort of spiffs for salespeople to get more lines on an order. So if their current average is 3.7 lines per order, if they are able to get that up to 5 lines per order, then you give them some sort of a small spiff to acknowledge that they've been able to improve their performance. So those are just some thoughts.
Okay, Rich, one next question. You said that many existing systems allow distributors to handle recommendations in both directions. How long does it typically take an employee who might be new to the system to understand and or handle requesting the recommendations in both directions?
Well, yeah, I think that's a good question, and I have limited experience with how some of this information is presented by the different ERP systems, but some of them, if you order a toilet, either automatically and always show the recommendations and allow the counter person to just see the recommendations and either skip them or to read them off to the customer. So I think that's and one of the other systems I think I'm familiar with, if I remember correctly, it shows that there are recommended items, and then the salesperson can press a key and it'll bring up the list of recommended items and allow them to select from that list. As I said, what you need to do is make by the fact that the recommendations have been done by an expert and someone that really ought to know what, either statistically or because it's a product expert, know what are appropriate recommendations. Even a new person who's new to the industry can read, hey, this is do you need the toilet seat for that goes with that toilet, pretty quickly, and after very little training. I think they just need some help in how to phrase it to the trade customer so that it doesn't sound like you're calling them stupid. But yeah, training in our industry is so difficult these days that looking for ways to allow even the new folks to add items onto the order is a high priority, I believe.
Okay, if we have time for one last question, Rich. You mentioned segmenting customers by trade type. Are there any industries out there besides ours that are approaching things progressively or differently than the way we may be doing it?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. As I said, we've partnered with someone who does distributors in other industries, and I know that that in my discussions with their team, it seems like in one of the industries that he works in, where they are selling to convenience stores, that there is a lot more sophistication in the way that they segment the customers and in the way that they talk to those customers. For example, they not only look at the associations, but they also use it as a way of tracking whether they are selling all the items that they should be into specific customer segments. Okay, so we notice that we're selling lots of toilets to residential new construction plumbers, but we're not selling a lot of seats. Well, why is that? And it gives them not the answer to the question as to why they're not selling toilet seats, but it gives them the ability to say, to understand that they probably ought to be selling seats into that customer segment, and for some reason they're not. Is it they don't have the proper brands? Is it that they their price is out of the market, and so people buy the toilet but then say, you're too high on the seats, I'm going to buy that from your competitor. So it doesn't answer the why they're not getting all of the associated product sales that they should, but it helps the sales team and the wholesaler to understand that they are not getting their fair share of some parts of the into that segment. So it's a and I think retail, and I don't have a whole lot of experience in retail. I think retail is tremendously sophisticated in a lot of things that they do, and we can learn from them. It's just, as I said, it's hard to get software and techniques and algorithms that out of retail that apply into our industry as directly as the approach that we think we've taken.
Okay, that's all we have time for. So we'd like to, in conclusion, thank you, Rich, for today's presentation. Once again, a replay of today's webinar will be available on your My ASA page at www.asa.net in the next couple of days. We'd also again like to remind you to to get your Network ASA 2014 registrations in if you have not done so already. We are currently at 86 distributor firms, well on our way to 100, and we'd like to see those registration numbers grow over here the next couple of weeks. With that, we'd like to thank everyone for their time today and hope you have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks everyone.